I got them shaking 12 at night to 5 in the morning. They don't give a fuck now. If it's for that money, niggas gon' bark and they bite like a motherfucking dog. Got a party like a motherfucking dog. For that cat, I am gon' roof and I'm barking at that cat, and I am gon' take the roof off and I'm riding that ride. Rip, leaning to the left, but I'm steady on the only right. I'm swerving with a purpose. A nigga been sipping on that purple. A nigga been cheaping on that purple. Cause I'm getting money. Cause I'm getting money. And I'm living all the way to the motherfucking bank. And I'm telling her, tell me later if she thinking what I'm thinking. Damn me getting money. I walk about the bank and I stuck up.
They uploaded DNA samples, shared birth certificates, paid monthly subscriptions to databases promising connection to their ancestors. And almost all of them hit the same wall. Not 1776, not 1620, the year 1870. That is when the names stop. That is when the records vanish. That is when your family tree becomes a collection of question marks. I spent 3 months trying to understand why, and what I found made me realize this is not a gap in record keeping. This is a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Start with the obvious question.
Bang, bang. Yeah. So tell me, why 1870? I have my own opinions about why 1870. It does feel refreshing to have these thoughts be laid on the table by more than one. It's always better to have a group at it, as you can tell. Okay, so let's talk about it just for a sec. My thoughts are, and my opinions are, I can't believe anything from the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. These are all people's opinions of what happened actually in the 16, 17, and the 1800s. We can actually only prove the 1900s if we want to come down to it. So it's the real facts of what actually transpired. I would say 1900. If we were talking about what actually transpired, that we can actually, without a shadow of a doubt, actually prove. Everything else we have to go off speculation and paperwork. Now, there are some stories that are passed down within our family. There are. We can say that we did this, these people did that. But to get down to the proof of it, we got to be on one accord. Like, you can tell me about your family lineage, I can tell you about mine. We can find out where we connect. Okay, great. We found the connection. What's the next great move? What's the next great move after that connection? I gotta say, seeing these Epstein files come out and whatnot, and seeing that he had a lot to do also with this whole spit test. So, in order to say that you're some type of person in the 1800s, this spit test was going to tell you that. No matter what your family actually orally told you, the spit test is going to tell you something different. Your family is orally telling you something that goes against this actual spit test. And that's for reasons. Let's call this spit test a Mandela effect. Because instantly you became an African and or you became an Italian or anything but American. You became all these different breeds of people. Huh. The transition is wild. So my guy's thinking 1870. I'm thinking around the same time, about 1870-ish. I'm also thinking that 1890s is the first actual. Well, I'll get to that. I'm gonna let this guy talk a little bit also. But just know, I don't believe any of this crazy, spooky people, especially the brown skinned American as a whole, were enslaved story. I'm talking about the so called black person, so called Negro. And we're going to get down to that as we chase this money. We're going to get down to who I think the Negro is, who I think the black person is during these times, who I think the white person is during these times, these social constructs to break down. When I think the Roman Empire actually existed, if they even existed, who are the Greeks, if the Greeks actually existed. A lot of people didn't exist. A lot of these cultures didn't exist. But again, just like the census, it's writing on paper as far as the 18, 17, 1600. If we're talking about what actually happens is just writings on paper. Something else could have totally transpired during those times, but what we have is writing on paper that we're calling the end all be all in the form of a narrative. So we got a bunch of different stories, orally, and I would say stories that you can only get educationally. Like in the backwoods, you're not going to be talking about Christopher Columbus. In the backwoods, if you're just growing up in the backwoods, you're not going to be talking about Pope in Italy. You're not going to be talking about all these things that a narrative brings you. Now, narrative also comes with characters. So you also need characters to create this narrative that you've come up with. There are numerous amounts of authors that authored books. I would say they said during the 1800s, which I'm also seeing a replay of those authors. They say authored books in the 1800s. Someone rewriting all of their stories in the 1900s. So the pseudonyms. So my thoughts are, could these people have been in the 1900s saying that they were an author in the 1800s? I mean, we are talking trickery at its finest here. The story got to go along with the narrative, though, that they've created. I mean, your life story has to go along with their narrative that they created that you're now part of. You are in the Sims world. It's their game. I don't spook talk. I don't shoot the breeze when it comes to this type of talk. Now, this guy is saying 1870. Where these people came from. When I say where these people at, where these people at? Where they at now? The people that, so to speak, came after 1870. Where these people at now? Did they create a lineage somewhere? Let's go back to Mr. J.E. himself, Mr. Boogeyman himself, Mr. Jesus. Jesus. This nigga is crazy. Let's go back here. So if he's the forerunner or running with the forerunner on this DNA spit test, so if he's forerunning this with the forerunner at the beginning of its inception, what is this spit test actually for? You would actually need to be asking your goddamn self if you spit in that motherfucking tube. So it's just so funny that Mr. J.E. himself had a lot of money ties. I am doing a series on money right now, so I'm sticking to the money right now. But J.E. had a lot of money ties. I actually do think that this guy was the head of the Federal Reserve System, the Fed. I'm thinking this guy's the Fed, and the Fed is untouchable because they actually run the money that run the money. Nobody makes a move without who's ever in America running the world say so. And if you get out of line, I see here, this is what happens here. But Mr. J.E. is definitely a free man somewhere walking around. Like I said, Mr. J.E., Mr. J.E., I know you can hear me, motherfucking spy tactic, Gorilla 101. Nigga, you created this shit that I'm on. Nigga, lend your boy 100 mil. I ain't gonna tell nobody. Yeah. Yeah. We got things to do. No Karachi. So right now we're talking about 1870. Like I said, I got my own thoughts. As we ride into the sunset on these type of videos, these are just my first preliminary videos. So I'm relaxing right now. The build up is real though. There you go. Bang bang.
That is when the records vanish. That is when your family tree becomes a collection of question marks. I spent 3 months trying to understand why, and what I found made me realize this is not a gap in record keeping. This is a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Start with the obvious question: why 1870? The answer you will find in genealogy forums sounds reasonable at first. Birth certificates were not mandatory until the early 1900s. The 1890 census was destroyed in a fire. Records simply were not kept as thoroughly back then. These explanations satisfy most people. They satisfied me for about a week. Then I started looking at the details, and the details do not add up. The 1890 census was the most detailed population count in American history up to that point. Nearly 63 million Americans documented with information no previous census had collected: immigration status, naturalization records, number of children born versus children surviving, whether you spoke English, whether you owned your home or rented, whether you had served in the Civil War and on which side. This was not just a head count. This was a comprehensive snapshot of every person living in America during a very specific window of time. The transition period, the generation that remembered what came before. On January 10th, 1921, a fire broke out in the basement of the Commerce Building in Washington, D.C., where these
Yo, why these stories always got fires? Some happen with a fire and then there's a whole new transition of life happening right after these major fires. So a fire happens and then they repopulate that area. Hmm. So we're talking we went from 1870. Now we're in 19. So you have to jump around with history. You have to jump around with history because if they fake the 16, 17, and 1800s from the 1900s, you have to fucking jump around in history. What the? You cannot be still in history. These stories are overlapping each other. So if you don't know what happened in the 1600s, it's the same story that happened in the 1800s. I guarantee you. Look, two and two still equals four, not unless you're doing some different math, motherfucker. Bang bang. Lego.
records were stored. The official story says 1/4 of the census was destroyed outright. On January 10th, 1921, a fire broke out in the basement of the Commerce Building in Washington, D.C., where these records were stored. The official story says 1/4 of the census was destroyed outright. Another half sustained water and smoke damage. But here is what the official story leaves out: the fire did not destroy the 1890 census. Bureaucratic indifference did. Those damaged records sat in storage for 12 years. No restoration, no copying, no attempt to salvage what remained. Then, in December 1932, the
So the story goes like on a breakdown. So the the 1790 census through the 1870 census wasn't released until 1942. Again, the 1790 census through the 1870 census all bundled together, all of these thousands of so-called original files that were copied from original files. All of these files from the 1870 census through the, I mean, from the 1790 census through the 1870 census. All of these were released all at once in 1942. Now, again, this guy just mentioned 1932. Now, 1932 is when they actually started getting these files and for the first time and laying eyes on these files, is what they're telling you in the story, the narrative. So, president right now is saying, hey, 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 we need to put these censuses out. Now, mind you, nobody's ever seen these censuses. Get what I'm saying? Nobody's ever seen the census from 1790 through 1870 census until 1942. I ain't asking you to prove me wrong. I'm telling you I'm right. Now ask yourself something. Don't ask yourself nothing. You know what I mean? Listen to me. Listen to me. Why in the fuck would they drop the census for the first time from 1790 when the United States first had its constitution? Well, no, that's the first census of the United States, 1790. So they didn't drop that 1790 census until 1942 also. So from 1790 through 1870, those census all bundled together wasn't dropped until 1942. And you still couldn't go view them unless you had access to a library or something. What the fuck else you gonna view the actual census at? Hmm. Why would they hold all those census records for nobody to see until 1942? I ain't asking myself this. I'm not asking myself this. I'm telling you, peep the play. Let's dive deeper. Bang, bang.
Storage for 12 years, no restoration, no copying, no attempt to salvage what remained. Then, in December 1932, the chief clerk of the Census Bureau sent a list to the Librarian of Congress asking which documents should be preserved. The 1890 census was on that destruction list. The Librarian of Congress identified 0 records worth saving, not a single page from 63 million names. Congress authorized the destruction on February 21, 1933. One day later, on February 22nd, President Herbert Hoover laid the cornerstone for the National Archives. Congress authorized the destruction on February 23.
So at this point in time, the United States, ran by the original Americans at first, I would say, the United States has broken off from the rules that they needed to follow. So by by saying that, okay, hey, the 1890 census is burnt anyway, we're not going to be able to drop those. So instead, in 1933, 1933, they're going to burn the 1819 census. They're going to burn them. So already it was a fire in the building where the census were held. I'm talking about the census, all the census were held. I'm talking about all the census were held. Yeah, yo. So they were holding the census in multiple places around the Washington D.C. area. They said they had them in different buildings and things of that nature. So they never really give you the real story, to be totally frank with you. But right now, you got the 1890 census. Nobody's ever seen the 1890 census. So if you see it online, hmm, they made that shit up. Of course, of course. I'm saying that the people that were here already had their own census within their own areas. I'm even saying that this whole state situation, that's a late 1800s situation. I'm saying there wasn't no states until late 1800s. I'm saying all of these stories they've been telling us is an Epstein lie. God damn it, it's an Epstein lie. You know this guy was in the lab also trying to create the perfect hermaphrodite too. The perfect hermaphrodite. I mean, If we really going to get down to it, this guy was also in charge of AI, the foundation behind it. Okay, again, I'm saying he's the foundation behind these spit tests as well. So he's the foundation behind the AI sector as well. Okay, you can say AI was before him. Say Bitcoin was before him. Say Coinbase was before. Say Reddit. Say what you say was before him. Now I'm not giving the guy the credit. Now are they trying to push everything on this Epstein guy, or was he really running the world, or is he still running the world through his uh, ties? I wouldn't even call them ties, but everything has to do now with this guy Epstein. As to why I'm showing this. Now, people are going to say, well, who came before him? I'm telling you, the first sector of this regime came with Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson's regime is the regime that is still running this play. Because as long as this Federal Reserve is in play, their play is still in play because guess what? You're still using their dollar. The Federal Reserve note belongs to the Federal Reserve. And who owns that Federal Reserve? Isn't it owned by private entities, even though they say the Congress runs it? But we just found out through the Epstein files that the Congress don't run a motherfucking thing. Who the fuck is a red or blue? Bitches, you don't run shit. Let's find out what this guy's talking about. Because we're already sure that the first census that you ever never seen before, that you ever never imagined, seen before, magic. Fish tailing out the parking lot, leaving magic. That these census that you ever never seen before until they became online. When did they become online, Troy? Huh? Gold ounce boy? Troy ounce? When did they become online, huh? We talking about in the 2000s. Tell me if you saw the census before the 2000s hit, when the internet hit. Oh, wow, this guy's also foundational wise kicking it with Google guys, right? Foundationally wise, he was kicking it with the Google guy who's also connected to the DNA girl, right? Who's also still connected to JE himself. Now, mind you, the banks was also kicking his funds through. Oh, okay, let's go to Mr. Morgan's bank. Mr. Jamie Dimon himself. Were you put up to this, Mister, to make sure that it's their money anyway? You can't even stop the flow. As a flow, the flow of his money is his money. This guy's running with the feds, man. And when I say feds, I ain't talking about FBI. I'm talking about Federal Reserve is the money printing company. The Federal Reserve System is what it's called. We're not talking about cops here. We're talking about a group of motherfuckers that are running the world through the Federal Reserve System. They did not have power prior to the Federal Reserve System. This is the Ponzi scheme. This is the Ponzi scheme that's running these people. That you can never take their billions away. Every time you spend a dollar, if you go to work, somebody's taking your paycheck before you get it. Who the fuck is that? Okay, say you're paying for state shit with your tax also. Okay, okay, so just say that then. Say you're doing that then. Okay, we don't even have a plan to say, all right, let's stop paying tax. You said, or should I say USAID? No, you said it's saying, fuck what y'all saying. I'm sending money here, there, everywhere. No envelope, no none of that. Straight cash. Okay, they're going digital now. So everybody's okay with everything that's going on because your ass is docile now. We ain't got no people playing. God damn, we ain't got no people playing. You got a community playing. What the fuck a community playing gonna do with us still spending their money that they reap the benefits off of? I don't know about you, but before I even get my goddamn check, I don't earn real work time hours for it. You know what I mean? Somebody done took it off the top, cut me off the top. I ain't even let me give you my money, goddamn it. It's too much power. We done gave these people in these suits and ties too much power. You know what I mean? If the people run it, the people walking. If the people supposed to run it, the people walking. We done gave these people too much power with these stories, these narrative. We've now believed so hard in these stories that we think they're real. Man, if you don't debunk these people's stupid ass histories they giving y'all, goddamn, goddamn. Yeah. I'm on their ass, Mr. Postman. Fuck all that shit. I don't give a god. Man, fuck all that. I'm on their ass. I'm not. Excuse me. I'm on your neck. Boot on your neck. I ain't on nobody ass. Not none of that. We can't even say those words right now with this whole Epstein and shit. I don't even know where that shit come from. I gotta stop saying stupid ass phrases like that just because of that shit. I'm on your neck. Boot on your neck. Bang bang. But we're talking about the census. We're talking about where these extra people came from, how they can fudge the numbers in the 1900s, seeing that the census didn't drop. Okay, let me give you another backstory. Okay, say we got an original census. Who would have been the original census taker? It would have been the person actually going from house to house to actually take these census. So you got one person right there. So whoever is doing this count in each community has to go back to their whatever the fuck they were living in back then with this total census count. So right there, you got one person that wrote it down when he was going from house to house, or she was going from house to house. That's the only original census there is, guys. The person that actually went out there and actually wrote the shit down. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So if you ain't got that paperwork right there, that original hand, what they make, man, they can make up anything. Yeah, believe they can't. Believe they can't. Yeah, you believe in the stories already. You know they can make up anything, and have your ass believing it. Yeah. You don't even know what the truth is. Nobody does, huh? That's a goddamn lie. You goddamn unravel the lie one lie at a time. You figure out what's the lie and what's not. Now, there's some great, awesome ass people on this earth that are doing some grandstanding ovation shit. Now, this is still early in the game. There's a lot being tossed out here. They didn't put a fake gangster who's getting shot at 80 and not getting hit. The nigga is the wing. Yeah. Why, you turn gangster at 80? You're getting shot at like none of this is real, man.
Documents should be preserved. The 1890 census was on that destruction list. The librarian of quantified 0 records worth saving, not a single page from 63 million names. Congress authorized the destruction on February 21, 1933. One day later, on February 22nd, President Herbert Hoover laid the cornerstone for the National Archives building, a fireproof facility designed specifically to prevent this kind of loss. One day apart. The census destroyed on February 21st. The building that would have saved it begun on February 22nd. Of 63 million names, approximately 6,000 survived. That is not a fire. That is an erasure. But the 1890 census is only one piece. Let me show you another. Before the 1900s, most American states did not require birth certificates. Massachusetts started in 1841. But South Carolina did not mandate birth registration until 1915. Georgia waited until 1919. Texas started in 1903, but compliance was scattered for decades. When Social Security began in 1935, millions of Americans could not prove they had been born. They had no documentation, no government record of their existence. These people had to file something called a delayed birth certificate.
So, out of all those censuses from 1970 through 1870, now 1890 got burned down. So 1880s came out a little bit later. That's how you got the 72 year rule, which was a play within a play at the same time, mind you. This is the world stage. Which character are you going to be, mind you? All right, so we got the 72 year rule that comes about because of these census being dropped so late after 1870. So from 1870 to the year that it was dropped, I think it's supposed to be like 72 years, if I'm not mistaken, from 1870 through 1942 when they were dropped. So that's how they came up with the 72-year rule. So a census is only dropped 72 years after the initial date of it being taken. Now you can get some of the information online, of course. You can get some of it if you're that person. Like Ancestry has teamed with. Wait a minute. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow. Ancestry has teamed with Epstein too. Talk to me. So you got all these ancestry sites that are just recently invented as well in the 2000s, mind you, mind you, because the internet wasn't invented until when? In the 2000s, mind you. You know what? I'll take that back. Maybe we had a few websites prior to 2000, but the internet conglomerately wasn't invented until after the 2000s. So everything that we're going through, it seems like it's been a lot of years. We're only at 5G. We're already working on 6G, 7G, 8G. I think there's already beta 6Gs out right now somewhere. Who knows? I mean, but we do know. Somebody's done the research. So if they put it out there, we're definitely able to grasp it. Now, I'm not going to stop using the AI because I found out that Epstein is also a foundation leader in that as well too. So I can't even get mad at people that say, "Hey, I'm still going to spend some Bitcoin. I don't care if he started it or not," you know. So, but of course he did. It's a repeat from 1912 to right now. This is their anniversary. They've been in power for since 1912. Woodrow Wilson. So 2012 is when they said the world was supposed to end, but that was just 100-year anniversary of these guys being in power. They're doing a little rain dance on our ass right now. They're excited. They're going into what year? 112th. When was their 112th year? Let's see here. So 2012 would have been 100 years. So 10 plus that would have be 122. So that would have been 2024 would have been their 100 and oh wow, it's their 113th year of being in 113th year, 100 and brrr, key. Hold up. Is it the 113th year of being in power? Let's see. 12 plus 12 is 20. Oh, wait. 112 plus 10 is 22. So that's 122 plus two more. That's 12. That's 2024. We're in 2026. So 2025 would have been the 113th year. We're in the 114th year of ruling. And when I say ruling, I'm mentioning the Federal Reserve System that was set up under Woodrow Wilson and how Woodrow Wilson was the forerunner to segregation, making it known. And that's when you found out that you were actually being called colored also uh, somehow. So, again, I'm going to go back to me knowing that there's word black and Negro was made up in the 1900s. This is all, again, I can say it. They said it in the Epstein file. They said it was all to do with eugenics, this social construct of being black or white. So, my truth is, through research, I found out that there is no white or black in the 15 and 1600s. Nobody's being called black 15, 16, 17, 1800s or white. This is a eugenics social construct that happens after 1870. Again, this shit is all brand new. Because prior to black and Negro, they were calling people colored in the early 1900s. There's still, so to speak, signs that proves that they were calling us colored. Now, the word Negro was also created through the eugenics program, is what I'm telling you, in the 1890s, to be exact. So nobody was being called Negro prior to 1890s. Nobody was being called white or black prior to the 1890s. These are narratives, and all these literary writers are on the same page during this time to, let's say, write history, not rewrite history. They're writing history. And of course, there's some facts out there that actually proves that none of those none of these people that are these great writers now uh, were writing prior to 1850. You even got to go through the languages, when languages were actually created or reconstructed. You can say that for languages as well. But again, we're talking about the census, and the census count people, right? So if the census that were supposed to be taken up and counting people from 1790 through 1870 wasn't dropped for anyone to see outside of the government realm until 1942. Hmm. So they could have put anything on those censuses. I've already told you that the only original census would have been the handwritten one, where that person was going from house to house, taking down the names and putting that information on whatever he was writing on. And it damn sure wasn't in an Excel spreadsheet like you see when you're online in Ancestry or whatever genealogical website you may hop up on to go check your past. Now, I'm not giving up on everybody looking for their ancestors. I'm just saying we got to put the story together the right way. We better not believe anything these people are saying about any of our people. If we don't got that original handwritten paper write up of what was going on back then, I'm not taking a digital copy of somebody typed up words and whatnot. Because again, you had the first person in the story that goes from house to house to actually write down who's in the house, write all the names down, do all this, that, and the third. Hmm? Then he takes that to the actual marshal, right? So when he takes it to the marshal has to rewrite, or whoever's working in the marshal's office rewrites all of those primary sources. Yeah. So first you got a guy going from house to house, or a woman taking these names, addresses, writing down who's in the house. And they said they was taking up color, really. Uh-huh. So and then again, that person hands off his original or her original paperwork to the marshal. The marshal then says, okay, let me rewrite it so it's legible for us to send it to Washington D.C. at the time. That's what the story is. I am not making this shit up. So the story goes like this. So already this handwritten paperwork that started off from the actual uh, person working for the marshal. I'll just call him a person working for the marshal. There is an actual name for it, but it don't even matter because he's the original person that took the first information going from house to house. So he passes it to the marshal. The marshal has to rewrite everything on the paper. They're not sending what the person went from house to house to collect to Washington D.C. It has to be written in perfect cursive writing. Now, a lot of the data that I looked through, they were saying that these people that were going from house to house were sometimes illiterate. And of course, we're talking about in the 1790s time frame through the 1870s. What the fuck are they? What's the mode of transportation for you to go from house to house? Talking about you, I need everybody in the house name and everything. Now you got to go to the next house. Now, mind you, these houses are spaced out, but you're counting millions of people in different spots. So I would like to see a list of names per county of who are these census takers going from house to house, handing the paperwork back. Because that census taker would be the overall prize. I don't have anybody in my family ever said, yeah, your granddaddy was a census taker. He went from house to house to get the names. Uh, we don't know anybody that worked for or did any census taking in our family lineages. So who the fuck was going from door to door to take these names and shit in the 1790s time frame to through the 1870s? And don't give me no slave narrative without the actual fact sheet to back that up. I don't want to hear any slave narrative about any slave being taken down, going from house to house. Boy, them boys would have caught your ass and whooped your ass up talking about you about to take out. You know what? You got to walk through the field where they at. Yeah. So if they working out there in the field back in them days, you got to walk down there. You rode your horse down there, huh? To take everybody's name, then you set off into the sunset to go to the next house 3 miles down the road with another long ass driveway. How many months? They gave them like 5 months to take all these names per county, is what the narrative says. Again, I don't believe any of their narratives. And again, Epstein is behind all of this shit that we're doing right now. So they had that. You cannot take him out. They can't even take him out. That's why they never really put him in jail. It was already pre-set up for him to go to jail. He already knew what was about to happen. Again, this guy's not in jail. Ghislaine Maxwell is not in jail. That's a fucking man playing her. So I don't believe none of this shit. A lot of the politicians are going FTM to MTF. A lot of these politicians could be the seed of fucking Epstein. We don't. They could have been the babies on the islands. We don't know what the fuck is going on, but all we know is we better not believe any of these fucking narratives we've been told. None of them. Bang, bang.
1903, but commercial security began in 1935. Millions of Americans could not prove they had been born. They had no documentation, no government record of their existence. These people had to file something called a delayed birth certificate. They gathered evidence from census records, church baptismals, family Bibles, testimony from elderly relatives, anything that could prove they existed. The government was essentially asking an entire generation to prove they were real. Think about what that means. Your great-great-grandmother, born in 1880, probably has no birth certificate. The only proof she existed might be a handwritten entry in a family Bible, if that Bible survived, if it was not lost or sold or destroyed in one of the many fires that seem to follow these records around. Speaking of fires, there is a term genealogists use called burned counties. It refers to counties where courthouse fires destroyed vital records. You might assume this happened occasionally, randomly, the unfortunate result of wooden buildings and oil lamps. You would be wrong. 40% of Alabama counties lost their records, 40% of Georgia counties, nearly 40% of Mississippi, 60 of Tennessee's 95 counties experienced significant.
Bang, bang. So if all your records are gone, wait a minute. Hold up. Stop. Wait. Wait. Huh? What? Talk to me. So if all your records are gone, how the fuck you a slave in the 16, 17, 1800s? Is that a narrative or not right now? Because they don't got the records to say that they made the shit up in from 1932 to 1942. They were making up the shit. So they got to hold to your original records, guys. They burnt them bitches. If there were originals, they go. I don't know. They just said they started burning them shits. What you? The originals gone, bro. I'm telling you, bro. Okay, so you got records. Okay, okay. I got records in the 1800s as well too. I got oral stories from the 1800s. My people still got land. Also, some of them, not all of them. Let's just be real. So, uh, but at the same time, we got some crazy stories. All of us do. Some of our parents actually had to pick cotton in the 1900s, not for slavery, but they were actually being paid. It was a job. So again, we can't go with their narrative if we got the all truth of what actually transpired from a parent or an uncle or a grandmother. So these are the actual truths. Now everybody's always chasing their original lineage, but once you get to the 1800s, how much of that orally do we have that was passed down? Now there are some pictures from the 1800s that show the Aboriginal complexion uh, doing well. Like I said, my people had things going on as well too to say, hey, so when did they become a slave? Is what you got to start asking yourself. Or did these people make up this slave story in the 1900s? Preferably when they started doing the census to be able to drop from 1932. I got a deeper dive into this whole census shenanigan. It's all a Ponzi scheme. They told you for the first time in your goddamn life in 1942 that your ass was from Africa. That's when these stories started coming out. Okay, okay, let's go back then. Let's go back. Let's on a larger scale. I'm talking about with the census, 1942. On paper, now they got you as black. They went through all that shit and made sure everything said black color. Shit you were never called in the 1800s. So again, we check out this whole Epstein story, guys. This guy's behind changing up history. And how long have they been doing this with this conglomerate group that he's from or he's now part of? Even if he ain't the leader, he's a shot caller right now. And what are they doing? They feeding your ass some fake food by way of the gates. Uh, let's see what else. Let me not go down that line. Bang bang.
Record loss. In some cases, the same courthouse burned 2 or 3 times. Lenoir County, North Carolina lost records in 1878. You would be wrong. 40% of Alabama counties lost their records, 40% of Georgia counties, nearly 40% of Mississippi. 60 of Tennessee's 95 counties experienced significant record loss. In some cases, the same courthouse burned 2 or 3 times. Lenoir County, North Carolina lost records in 1878, then again in 1880. Montgomery County burned in 1835, 1840, and 1886. Swain County lost everything in 1879. Then in 1908, a mob burned the courthouse during a riot. No records were saved. Port Tobacco, Maryland experienced what contemporary accounts called a suspicious fire in 1895 that destroyed the courthouse completely. The town never recovered. It lost its status as county seat and faded into obscurity. These were not random accidents. These fires targeted the exact buildings that held birth records, death records, marriage certificates, land deeds, probate documents. Everything that proves who owned what, who married whom, who was born and when. One researcher called it paper genocide. The record
So it looks like this guy is trying to say, hey, people, the brown skinned people, culture was actually lied about. You will never know who these people really were because guess what? They burnt all their original records and recreated them. You see who's at the forefront of recreation mechanisms right now, things that recreate what's actually real. We call it synthetic. So that's what's going on. We're in a time of robotics. So it's the get along or get the fuck on gang at the seat of things right now. Mind you, the fools call themselves PayPal Mafia. Maybe they didn't call themselves the PayPal Mafia, but Epstein and your boy Musk was a part of the PayPal Mafia. And then one of their boys just happened to, so to speak, just want to stop living on Earth for a second and take a break. Nigga ain't came back from his lunch break yet. What? I'm just saying all of this is real, man. Again, PayPal is a digital thing. So again, Epstein is at the front of the digital transfer of thought. This whole digital world, we thinking is Elon Musk. No, the motherfucker stuttered too much. I can't. Hey, what you say again? Blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up is what he said. So check it. We know that stuttering motherfucker is not running the world. Not unless you know what, that could be an act. These guys are characters on this big stage as well too. They like to mimic old art. I wouldn't be surprised if that's for a reason. While some of these, like, who is this? Andrew Jackson is supposed to be the lookalike of Mr. J.E. himself. Jesus, fucking uh, walking on water to get back to Bikini Island. Face ass boy, Jeffrey Epstein. So again, if this guy is all, it's not my opinion. I'm pretty sure this guy is at the top tier of whatever's going on behind the scenes here. Now, I have my own thoughts of who this guy might really be, but he's not no damn Jesus. I'm not giving this nigga that type of power, bro. I don't care what them records say. Okay, maybe he's touched up his DNA to live longer or to reduce aging. Because if you know enough about the body, you could definitely do some things like that. Yeah, I'm not gonna negate that this guy has been working with a team of people that are very, 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 very intelligent. Because to be able to create the data concepts that they're coming up with to be able to create an AI system that thinks for itself by taking all the data in the world and spitting out an answer in fucking milliseconds. I mean, that's very fucking intelligent, and that's why they know that they can't be touched. Because I'll say this: say they say, all right, we're gonna snatch away the money, the American dollar, and we're gonna take away the technology. Where would America be? This is why I say these guys are not going to jail, bro. But if we follow the money, if that's what we gotta have, but we are feeding these guys through the spending of this Federal Reserve note. So hint, hint. If you ain't got your own currency, nigga, you not on flow. You not in the flow. You not gon' flow, nigga. You going off somebody else's water. When all this water in the world, you want to choose the flow with this guy's currency. Now, the funny thing about it is that this guy JE is also the bones and skeletons behind the whole BRICS exit. Hmm. And the other monetary systems. And I do believe that Elon said he's about to create X, which is another monetary system that's about to start in play, just like Bitcoin now. Seeing that Epstein is not just the creator of Bitcoin, in my opinion. This guy actually is the forerunner of the whole digital coin based money world, or I would say blockchain, because again, there are some emails tying him to the foundation of blockchain, which is not far fetched. And we're not going to even get into Mr. Peter Thiel and all of the outrageous things he and his co-partner has been talking about since day one. Now, mind you, these guys could have all been in the same little boys' school up in New York, going to school. And all I'm saying is, check it, man. They are grooming these little ones from a very young age. Now, America is the seat of power. Nobody's going to outpower America. No one can outpower America. Now, mind you, see all this technology coming out and things of that nature. Okay, this is not China creating this shit. No, this is not Taiwan creating this shit. This is the people in America creating this shit. Okay, I don't. So, if America is the home base for everything to fly out and flourish, let's chase the money a little bit deeper than here. Find out why America is the home base and why this guy is talking about Aboriginal people or the dark skinned people or the so to speak black people records being burnt and recreated. Huh? How are you recreating burnt records, motherfucker? Now, mind you, these so to speak black or dark skinned people or Negroes, so to speak, they're none of those people. They gave those people those names when they was transcribing the census from 1932 through 1942. Now, within that time frame, they rewrote all the census from 1790 through 1870. All of that shit got rewritten. This is the age of Reconstruction. When I say the age of Reconstruction, it starts from 1890 on up until still going now, especially with the digital world. We're subject to think that let's say we're subject to think that ancestry.com has been out for a long time. Again, it can only be out as long as the internet has been going. And again, who's behind the internet? Who's the Google founder? Who is he tagged to? 23andMe. He's also tagged to who else? And 23andMe is also tagged to ancestry.com. Who is that tagged to? As all tagged to Epstein and his companies and Palantir and these such people. So no matter how we move, if we don't move cohesively, I'm talking about Velcro snapping together. You know what I mean? We're in trouble. I mean, we got things to do tomorrow. You figure them?
Records that would have records, everything that proves who owned what, who married whom, who was born and when. One researcher called it paper genocide. The records that would have documented Native American land ownership, mixed race ancestry, property claims that contradicted official narratives, all gone. And in some cases, witnesses reported seeing courthouse employees removing documents before the fire started. Records that now sit in private collections under lock and key, unavailable to the descendants who need them. But even this is not the full picture. Let me take you back to 1870 and show you who suddenly appeared in American records that year. 4 million people. 4 million formerly enslaved Americans who had never been documented by name in any federal census. Before 1870, enslaved people appeared in census records as tick marks, a number in a column, age and gender recorded but no names. The 1850 and 1860 censuses included something called slave schedules, separate documents that listed human beings as property under their enslaver's name. No identity.
Again, uh, totally. Please hear me. All of this shit is fake. The slave schedules, all of a sudden you got slave schedules. 1850, you got slave schedules that come out. Not part of the census. This is a secret group. Nobody really knows who took the slave schedules. That means that person had to also go from house to house. So not only now do you have the original census taker, somebody that's supposed to be local that knows everybody in the neighborhood, who's going to take the census himself or herself and turn back into the marshal. Now you got these new group of people come around and say they taking slave schedule, just the slave schedule. I got some work on that shit. I got work on that one. I'm gonna tell you right now that slave schedule is fake. And I'm gonna bring out it. I'm gonna bring out it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm on a slow leak. I'm only letting the air out the tire little by little. You can't even hear it. I ain't even pushing the pin in that hard. Yeah, I mean, it's just, boy, I'm about to, oh, inflate that motherfucking tire.
censuses included something called slave schedules, separate listed human beings as property under their enslaver's name. No identities, no family connections, just inventory. Then came 1870, the first census after emancipation, and suddenly 4 million people needed surnames. Some took the names of former enslavers, others chose names that meant something: freeman, justice, liberty, hope. Names that declared what they had become rather than what they had endured. But here is what complicates the research. The same family might appear with different surnames in 1870 and 1880. A man might use one name for the census and another for church records. Children might carry their mother's chosen name while their father used something different entirely. The fluidity was necessary for survival but devastating for genealogy. An entire population whose documented history begins at the exact same moment, with the exact same confusion, hitting the exact same wall, and they were not alone. If your ancestors came to America before 1820, there is probably no shit manifest documenting their arrival. The federal government did not require passenger lists until the Steerage Act of 1819 took effect in 1820. Before that, immigration records depended entirely on colonial ports.
So, did this guy just say, how you tracking how many slaves is in the United States, so to speak? That's theater to me. This whole United States shit never existed until the late 1800s. I don't give up nobody says. I just bleep my own self out on purpose. Look, this United States did not exist until the 1800s. I don't care about no 1790s, no 1716. That shit did not exist. This is a narrative. They made up the story in the 1900s. That's why they burnt the census. That's why they made it a fucking law. He passed something through this political system to say, "Hey, we need to burn this 1933. Then we'll build a new library." That's after the third fire, I think. I think they attempted to burn these people records. These are their original records. And why does this guy keep showing so-called black people? So I guess he's saying that they burnt their original records, and so they had to recreate what these people was because they ain't had no surnames and shit. So yeah, yeah. They're telling you they made up the story around 1940 ish. 1932 is when they really started making up the story about our lives. That's how you got put on taxes. This is look, this whole takeover event didn't happen until the 1900s. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't care what nobody says. This whole takeover happened in 1912 under the Federal Reserve System. This is where the story really starts. So this is why this guy is talking about the 1790 through 1870 census, and he's telling you right now the Steerage Act wasn't passed until like really 1820. A little bit before that, but 1820. So they're saying that they never really kept any manifest of who was coming here and who wasn't. Even though the manifest would go through the insurance company as well. But hey, even in shipping today, the manifest does say what's inside the container. So that documentation, so to speak, didn't happen until when? 1820. So how do you have stories from the 16, 1700s of all of these slave ships coming here? It don't make sense because it don't make no motherfucking sense. Shit. Ain't no need in sugarcoating this shit. These are narratives we've been fed redundantly.
documented history begins at the exact same wall, and they were not alone. If your ancestors came to America before 1820, there is probably no shit manifest documenting their arrival. The federal government did not require passenger lists until the Steerage Act of 1819 took effect in 1820. Before that, immigration records depended entirely on colonial ports, most of which kept incomplete records or none at all. Approximately 80% of white immigrants before 1790 came from British territories and were never documented. The National Archives states this plainly. They do not have.
You know why they were not documented? So all of these colonial stories from the 16 and 1700s, including Mr. Christopher Columbus, his goddamn fake self, none of these people actually existed. They don't even have records of these people coming here. And if they do have records, they made that shit up. I'm gonna tell you how they making this shit up. Epstein proves that they can make shit up and make you believe that shit. You guys are still gonna go out and vote the next term. This is why Trump said there's not gonna be another president after me. I'm gonna show you how the red and the blue don't got no power. They just got the money that you send these guys. And if they did have power, they don't really have power because they're not in control of the what? Money, the currency, what flows, what keeps the flow flowing, currency. That is a system called the Federal Reserve System. And there are people that actually own the Federal Reserve System that the United States Congress works with. So the United States Congress is the real shadow government because they don't do shit. They just get on a microphone and talk all day. The motherfuckers should have been some R&B and rappers and shit like that. What the? Yeah. They wouldn't make it in the business, but that's all they do. They just rap on the microphone all day. You know, and they vote on a vote. They vote on a vote. Bitch, you vote on a vote all day. That's what they do. They vote on votes. They vote on who you gonna vote for after you voted. Then they get in office. I don't. You know what? It don't even matter because all they do is vote all day against each other. What the? You know what? It don't even matter because they still the same group of idiots. They idiots. Nobody's going to jail. They idiots. If nobody goes to jail, and Epstein ain't even in jail. The paperwork is wrong, saying he died a day earlier. A van comes pick up somebody. Somebody's getting rolled out on a stretcher. What? Wait. What? Wait. I know the officers had to go to court and testify. My guy was looking clean as hell out there. My dark skinned dude with the beard looking clean as hell out there. Like, yep, nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen because Epstein and his crew is over the money. And if they're doing surveillance on everything, you wonder why the cameras went out because they in control of all the IT shit. They have cybersecurity people that can tap into anything. They have the ultimate hackers through their regime. Guys, stop playing here. These people ain't your type of people. These people got power. Yeah. You talk about the camera went out for here, there, and there. These people own the prison. What the hell? You're funny. Y'all funny. Yo, if any of you think that this guy has taken his last breath when he can go get somebody's heart and put it in his, yeah, put it in his chest, if anything, he can switch out himself any day. He could have been switched out himself. He wanted to stay in there a little bit longer. What it is to make you feel docile. Look, they want you to think that it cut the head off the main motherfucking king of the jungle. They want you to think that they cut the head off the king by putting a noose around his neck, and they're calling it a noose. They want you to think that hey, we killed the king, so all the dominoes are gonna fall. So what you're seeing now is the play, the theater. So it looks like all the dominoes are falling. Like people are getting nobody ain't going to jail for this shit. Yeah, and again, we don't know if, like he said, man, this guy J.E. Was had babies out there also that he was grooming up. So we don't know where these people are at now. We don't know if the island boys are really his kids or just some kids that they had birthed on the island or in Mexico or who knows where the fuck these people are at. They could be raising these kids up. They could be half robotics. I know Biden was walking like a motherfucking robot, but somebody else was playing Biden when it was time. But most of the time he was doing the robotic shit. He looked like a robot. Who knows? They could have put a real mask on one of these Tesla robots or this other company that's out under Epstein as well too. So okay, we got the Federal Reserve System with J.P. Morgan, right? And J.P. Morgan Bank started. He was started. He started the whole Federal Reserve setup and play. Okay, I would have to shed more light on why I say that. He's in the intertwining of setting up the Federal Reserve because the story goes, the narrative goes that everybody had to go to him for money when shit went awry. All right, let me just see. Let me just see.
Passenger lists for vessels arriving before 1820 with only people who built this country left no paper trail of their arrival. So let me put this together. Before 1870, enslaved Americans had no names in federal records. Before 1820, most immigrants had no arrival documentation. Before 1900, most Americans had no birth certificates. The 1890 census, the one that captured the transition generation in and courthouse fires eliminated local records across 40% of southern counties. Every single type of document that would connect Americans to their pre-1870 ancestry has been compromised, destroyed, or never existed in the first place. Now let me show you who controls what remains. The largest genealogical database in the world is operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Their organization, Family Search, maintains the Granite Mountain Records Vault in Utah.
Huh. So, so, family search is ran by these Mormons in Utah, basically. Again, connected to ancestry. Again, connected to the Library of Congress. Now, I don't look. I don't give a fuck about this red and blue shit. Look, look. The Library of Congress is in on this shit too. Didn't we just find out the government ain't running the government? Epstein has been running the governments, not just our government. These man, we've been hoodwinked. We've been Bernie Madoff with. You know what I mean? Come on, people. Wake the fuck up. You've been had. So who's to say that the slaves that didn't have a name but just had an age weren't the actual pale skinned people coming in, the immigrants? Now, we do have a long list of facts showing that these guys were supposed to be enslaved all over the world from whatever time they want to say up until the 1900s. That's how we got the Mann Act, right? White slavery. So they also were being called indentured servants in their story of relaying how most of these immigrants came here through indentured servitude contract, which were set up just like slavery. So could these slaves have been the pale skinned people coming here? Hmm? Talk to me. Talk to me. Is that why they want to make sure nobody can actually get a hold of anything tangible that is an original document? Because we have proof that Epstein is behind ancestry. All these little spit test DNA kits. So that whole Albert Perry story, they know who's the original man for a reason. They put that out for a reason. Huh? So what is going on here is what's going on here. Ask yourself, why are these people, this Mormon church in Utah, why would they even have records of anybody anywhere in the world? It has nothing to do with the government, right? So why do these Mormons have any records that can link any of these Aboriginal brown skinned people, so-called black Negro people, and later, bye bye Jesse, you know, you should have came out and at least said that African American shit ain't real before you left here. Part of that Jesse Ponzi scheme with the JE also, because that's a social construct that you created. You know what I mean? You know what? We shouldn't be going light on these people. And all you niggas out here killing each other that look like you. You're fighting the wrong motherfucker now. You're definitely fighting the wrong motherfucker. If I was you, I would put up that 4-5. You know what I mean? And make amends, make some contracts with these other members that are against what you stand for and see what y'all stand for together right now. Because right now, all of us are being hit over the head right now. Wake the fuck up, boy. Let go.
A nuclear-proof facility carved into solid rock holdings on microfilm, climate-controlled, earthquake-resistant document that would connect Americans to their pre-1870 ancestry has been compromised, destroyed, or never existed in the first place. Now let me show you who controls what remains. The largest genealogical database in the world is operated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Their organization, Family Search, maintains the Granite Mountain Records Vault in Utah, a nuclear-proof facility carved into solid rock holding over 2 billion names on microfilm, climate-controlled, earthquake-resistant, designed to survive catastrophe. Why does a church maintain the most comprehensive genealogical archive in human history? Because of a doctrine called baptism for the dead. Members trace their ancestry specifically to perform proxy baptisms on deceased relatives, offering them posthumous membership in the faith. The records exist primarily for religious purposes you never consented to. In 2008, the Vatican instructed Catholic parishes worldwide to stop sharing records with Mormon genealogists. In 1995, Jewish groups reached an agreement with the Church to stop posthumous baptisms of Holocaust victims after discovering hundreds of thousands had been baptized without family consent. The controversy continues. Names keep appearing in temple records. Anne Frank, Holocaust survivor.
See, they'll give you a story on top of a story that don't make no sense because the story is already a story from the jump. That whole that whole making a 6 million people disappear shit ain't real. I don't give a fuck who don't like when I say that. That shit is not real. And why is this Mormon guy right here? Why is this Mormon guy? Then you got the Italians also taking a census. So you got different ethnic groups taking different census as well too. So why would they even have our census anyway? Now, mind you, this only happened in the 1900s, and this whole Mormon setup is also part of this big, huge play as well too, because the motherfucker had a Martin Luther King dream, and he wrote it down. Uh, and that's how you got Mormonism. The motherfucker was hiking across America when he wrote that recently. If y'all don't get y'all ass out of here, I'm not playing no games with none of these motherfucking sabotagers to our lives. Nah, yeah. Neck, foot, nigga, meet it.
Survivors, celebrities, politicians. The database grows. And then there is Ancestry, the company most Americans use to trace their family trees, founded by graduates of Brigham Young University. Built initially on digitized LDS publications, now owned by the Blackstone Group, a private equity firm that purchased it for $4.7 billion.
Yo, huh? What? Yo, huh? Who said something? Who owns your motherfucking data? I ain't say that. I did say it before. I didn't say it before. Black Rock, did I say it before you? Don't even matter. Don't matter who says what first. I want y'all to know that. Yo, if we ain't motherfucking kumbaya and then holding hands, yo, we're gonna miss out on a lot of love and happiness that we could have had. These people are playing a game on us. Why would you pay 90, or it don't even matter how much billions of dollars you pay for paperwork with names on it? It must be important. These people are running a motherfucking Ponzi scheme with your name and your property that you no longer have. If they buy you on paper, do they own you as a slave? Because that's what they wrote on that paperwork in 1942 when they put it out to the public. But you still couldn't see it until after the 2000s. My mama never seen no goddamn census. My dad had never seen no census until after the 2000. They probably still ain't seen no damn census. I just showed my mama some ancestry stuff like a year ago, giving her an inside look into what happened in the 1800s through our family lineage. So you know they've been out here playing games with what happened in the 1800s. If I'm giving my mom game,
There is Ancestry, the company most Americans use to trace their family trees, founded by graduates of Brigham Young University. Built initially on digitized LDS publications, now owned by the Blackstone Group, a private equity firm that purchased it for $4.7 billion. Church members receive free access.
my bad, my bad. $4.7 billion. I said that with my pinky in my mouth. $1 billion. That's how much a Blackstone. I was also incorrect when I said BlackRock. Blackstone. I think these two companies were once one company. I'll go back and touch up on that, but I think they were one company and they split to be BlackRock and Blackstone or something. But they were both one company. I think these two head guys split. Due to I forgot what happened there, but I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna come back with the official story on this BlackRock Blackstone thing. But why are they purchasing personal data? Hmm? Well, Jeffrey Epstein told you why. He also had who else on his payroll? The guy that was taking all the pictures throughout all the schools, pretty much predominantly all the schools in America. The bicycle peddler also. So he got footage. He got pictures of all of us. Of Mr. Life Touch himself. Boy, I'd touch you with some no life. Yeah, you know what? Bring your esophagus to my goddamn hands. That's what you do. Just bring your esophagus out. Man, we cannot be playing games with these people. These people running circles around us, and we see it happening, and they're okay with us seeing it happening because they want to see how docile you are. How many of you actually are taking the medicine that we're giving you? So no matter what we do to you and your people, you're not gonna do anything, huh? Okay, great. We're gonna turn up the motherfucking heat, 500 degrees up in this bitch. You know what? It only takes 212 degrees to boil water. They turning up the motherfucking heat to 500. We ain't talking Lil Wayne.
Relatives found on Ancestry directly to the church for proxy baptism with the click of a button. You pay a subscription to find your ancestors. Someone else uses them for religious rituals. I keep returning to a question that bothers me more the longer I sit with it. We are told that record keeping before 1870 was simply less thorough, that governments did not prioritize documentation, that fires happened and records were lost through ordinary misfortune. But the pattern suggests something else. The 1890 census was the first stored without local backup copies. Every previous census from 1790 through 1880 had redundant copies kept at state and county levels. For 1890, everything went to one basement in Washington, one location, one fire, one decision to let damaged records rot for 12 years, one authorization to destroy what remained, one day before the fireproof building opened. Maybe I am seeing patterns where none exist. Maybe 63 million names reduced to 6,000 is just bureaucratic incompetence. Maybe 40% of southern courthouses burning is coincidence. Maybe the fact that every document type connecting Americans to pre-1870 ancestry has been compromised is simply how history works. Messy, incomplete, unfortunate. But I do not think you believe that anymore. I think you are sitting with the same question I have been sitting with for months. If you wanted to disconnect a population from its own history, if you wanted to ensure that people could not trace their origins beyond a certain point, if you wanted to create a wall that looked like accident rather than design, what would you do differently than what was done? The records that survived are held in a nuclear-proof vault by a religious organization. The company you pay to access them was built on those same religious archives. The government census that documented the transition.
So, there you have it. These are all official facts here. I don't know who this guy is, but he's definitely spot on with being spot on. Now, I would encourage you guys to take a deeper dive into this history yourself, as far as like 1870 when they actually dropped the census. I'm gonna come back and do a banger on this whole census. I'm just letting it build up, build up. You know what I mean? So you guys can get the gist of why they would have faked the history prior to the 1900s. Why is all the history in the 1900s actually written for every century? No matter if it's a remake or not, you don't get the original work. And even if you get the original work, there's a pseudonym author in the 1900s that said he was an author in the 1800s. I encourage you guys to look up Washington Irving. I encourage you guys to research indentured servants. I encourage you guys to look up white slavery from 1600s to the 1900s. So we got a lot of pale people moving around here, but at the same time, they should have been enslaved according to history as a whole. So a lot of this ain't making sense because it should not make sense to someone who's intelligent. Don't forget, AI means the American indigenous. That would be us.
Generation was destroyed through a combination of fire, neglect, and deliberate authorization. The local records that might have filled the gaps burned in patterns that researchers have called suspicious for over a century. Your family tree does not start in 1870. That is simply where the paper trail was cut. Everything before that, you will have to find another way. The stories your grandmother told, the names she mentioned that do not appear in any database, the places she described that sound nothing like what the history books say existed. Those stories are records too, older than any census, harder to burn, impossible to authorize for destruction. Someone is still telling them. The question is whether anyone is still writing them down before that generation disappears completely, and whether the next generation will believe